Guys, we are the Screen Team. We give you movie reviews, sometimes new, sometimes classic, and this time we are definitely going classic on this edition of the show. We're doing big blockbuster films, and we got some big ones for you. Later on, we're going to be reviewing Die Hard, one of the greatest action movies of all time with Bruce Willis. We've got another great action film with Schwarzenegger. It's called Terminator 2 Judgment Day. But first up, we've got probably one of the first movies that was considered a big blockbuster movie. We're talking about the movie Jaws. This was the movie that put Steven Spielberg into mega superstardom fame, and it was a movie that scared a lot of people into not going into the ocean.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Fair to say. And
I remember my parents were telling me about this. They're like, people were just so scared they wouldn't even go out in the water because of this movie.
yeah, and I was 17 when it came out, and I saw it in the cinema, and I don't know that it was scary, but it definitely made you think. And it's hard now with looking at it now. How do we feel about sharks and all that? We know a lot more from the Discovery Channel and all that.
Shark Week.
But back then it was really, and part of the reason it was so effective, I think, was unforeseen. That wasn't planned by Spielberg. He planned to do things a little different.
He did, didn't he? He wanted to show more of the shark, didn't he?
Absolutely. He wanted this mechanical shark to show up more, and the darn thing kept messing up.
Yeah.
And for that reason, it became much more of a classic thriller where it was an unseen thing. You saw very little of it, and that made it much more ominous and much more tense. And
can you imagine at the time when you're going through that, you're just like, I need this thing to work, otherwise my film is going to be, in the dumpster. Yeah. But it ended up being something far greater than what it would have been.
I think he began to see that was the way it was going to be, but what I've read and seen, it was a very troubled production. It just had all kinds. So Spielberg said his next movie, he said, after I make Jaws, I wanted my next movie, there was going to be no water in it. He did. He said, I'm not even going to have a bathroom in it. He said, well, most movies had been filmed on tanks, big tanks,
Sure.
and he decided to film out on the open right off the coast. Mm-hmm. And he said it was a nightmare you'd get ready to do a shot, and here come a sailboat from the way in the back, and you'd have to hold up. And just when it would disappear, you'd start, and here come another one, and it would go slowly. And it was just horrible. Spielberg really thought this is the last movie they'll ever let me make.
Sure.
Because it's a disaster. Of course, it turned out to be quite the opposite.
Something special. And this movie is something special to you. This is one of your all-time favorites, is it not?
It really is, and I think it's become that in the last 10 years. I always really liked it, but as I've watched it again, it stood up as one I enjoy watching over and over. Not every weekend, but
yeah.
I've seen it many times. It holds up well, and and I get more out of it each time and get more some of the nuances. It started off as a kind of a bubblegum story written by Peter Benchley, and it was a blockbuster. But the more I watch it, I realize all the subtleties even in it, and it's just turned out to be a high-quality movie to me from start to finish.
There's a lot of important characters in this film. You've got, let's see here, Richard Dreyfuss. He's in the film.
Right, Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw, who was the English actor.
Schneider. What's his
Roy
first name?
Schneider.
Roy Schneider. I wanted to call him Rob. I'm like, that's not right.
No,
so
it's Roy,
yeah.
And, I wonder, what can we say about Jaws that people don't know? But those three characters really carry it. It's really two movies in one. The first movie is on land, and there's a whole cast of characters.
Sure.
And the second half is just those three on the boat. And
trying to take care of the shark, basically.
Right, and it's claustrophobic, and they help each other, and they argue, and they fight amongst each other, and they're always looking out for the shark. Where's it at? And here again, since the mechanical one wouldn't work, they didn't have to worry about, it was much, much more ominous and much, much.
There's another character that we failed to mention, and that is the character that John Williams provides for the shark, the musical score for the shark. Every time you hear that, you know that something is probably not going to go the right way.
Now, let me ask you, before you've ever heard it, assume you'd never heard that, would you have thought that would have been really stood the test of time and become legend? I don't know.
I don't think so. It's a simple...
I wonder if most movies leading up to that had more of the orchestral sound or more complex, and then you had kind of the driving more simple driving sound that now it just creates this. You don't have to be anywhere near a TV screen or whatever. You hear that sound, you immediately know what's going on. And then we had the Halloween, the Carpenter, the simple driving. That would be interesting. How much is Jaws really a first? And
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, and I always say sometimes simple is better sometimes.
Absolutely.
This film came out in I think around 1977, 76, 77.
75 actually. Yeah.
Okay. Does this film still hold up to today? Will this new generation, do you think they will still appreciate Jaws?
I think this generation, the next one, and the next one after that, and after that.
So this is an all-time classic.
Yeah, I think it's not dated. Yes, it captures a slice in time, but the things it deals with, fear and wondering how are you going to cope with what's thrown your way, and how do you rise above just being. That's what Roy Scheider was. He was just a small town sheriff.
Yeah.
And here again, that's back to not special effects. Someone told me once, I saw that and that shark didn't look good. Well, that's not the point. And since the shark wasn't there much, we didn't have. It's not dated special effects, thankfully. That's back to that thing that it's human drama, some comedy, some interaction, some helping each other, and fear, and trying to conquer an evil, and that's going to play from 100 years from now or 200, I think.
All right, let me ask you this: what happens if you hear on the internet, Facebook, some local news show, they say producer wants to reimagine, remake, redo Jaws? Are you down with that?
I would say no. And I'm not always against remakes.
Yeah.
King Kong, the original 33 King Kong was great.
Yeah.
I think Peter Jackson, he did some great things. I don't know when you decide to make the remake or not, but you decide, can I do something that improves on it? Mm-hmm. Well, a lot of the King Kong, for example, they improved the special effects.
Yeah.
But since Jaws is not a special effects driven movie, it's an action adventure, even in the horror genre. But what are you going to do? I would ask anyone, what are you going to do to make it better? Or what are you going to do to give the new generation a better depiction of this? Yeah, you can update something so it plays better to a new generation, but in this case, I'm not sure what you would do.
Yeah.
And you could not recapture that initial combination of musical theme and actors. And I heard that Roy Scheider, they were looking for somebody to be the sheriff and couldn't find an actor, and Roy said, I'm an actor, I'll do it. I mean, it's things that fell together and looked like was going to be a disaster. You couldn't replace it.
Yeah.
So
I agree 100% with you, Hardin. I appreciate you. Hardin's here doing the review of Jaws, and we've got more reviews coming your way. We're going to be doing Terminator 2 Judgment Day. It's coming your way next on the Screen Team.